Lay a hand on that, Barrett, and you're off this team. For good. Those were Commander Hayden Greaves' final words on the matter. But deep in the crucible of Salton Valley, where the sniper was down and every escape was pinned by a storm of bullets, Ashley Marin, the medic no one believed in, stepped into the fire. Fingers trembling on the cold steel stock, she took a single breath. One shot, and then the battlefield fell into a hush, as if the heavens themselves paused to reckon with a truth no one dared to believe. If she dared to touch the Barrett, she'd be cast out of the team, no appeal, no return. That was the only warning the SEAL commander offered. No barked commands, no harsh words, just a quiet sentence, almost too soft to catch, like he was commenting on a cracked mug, not a rifle that could shatter a truck's engine block from 300 meters. But the meaning was unmistakable. The line was clear. Cross it, and it was over. The Barrett, 50 calorie, rested like a predator in slumber. Rough canvas draped across its frame, lying still beside 3 dusty crates at a makeshift outpost near Bakersfield Valley, California. The morning heat was dry and pressing, wrapping around the camp like a shroud. Every distant sound carried far, like the desert itself had ears. Ashley Marin, just arrived from 29 Palms, walked with a medic's quiet grace. A pale scar on her wrist caught the sun, half hidden beneath a carelessly rolled sleeve. Her boots were scuffed, tightly laced. Her steps were careful, unremarkable. But the look she gave the Barrett was anything but. The knowing gaze of someone who understood its power. No one looked her way. In the controlled chaos of camp life, the chop of blades, the static of radios, the distracted chuckles of soldiers, a nurse near a rifle wasn't strange. Not until her hand brushed against the weapon's side. Then, the heat paused. She didn't reach for the trigger. Didn't rush. Her palm rested on the cold steel, like touching a ghost. And with that touch, a memory stirred. Her father's voice. Some things aren't meant for you. Not till the world runs out of those sane enough to carry them. She pulled off her glove. Let her bare hand meet the metal. Slow. Certain. Human. The Barrett didn't flinch. It simply waited, as if recognizing an old companion in her silence. The moment passed in under 90 seconds. But for Ashley, it was everything the instant she stepped beyond the safety of gauze and stitches. For 4 years she had healed what war destroyed. Now, she stood before the idea that maybe, just maybe, she could end it. And then it came, the smoke curling up from the far valley. The first detonation. No commands. No cries. Just a shift in the air, and suddenly, the camp was in motion. Troops surged toward the ridge. The gunners had already fallen back. Recon was down. Before anyone could speak, the convoy was under fire. Ashley dropped beside the Barrett. No one noticed. No one called her name. She didn't ask. Didn't wait. In the space between instinct and mayhem, she pulled the bolt. One shot rang out, hit dead center. The second followed, silencing an entire hill. The Barrett spoke. Above, the recon chopper banked hard. A voice cracked over the radio. Hold up. Who the hell just fired? Silence. Just a girl with dust in her hair kneeling by a gun that wasn't hers, like she hadn't yet decided if she was breaking orders or becoming the last one who remembered why they mattered. And then, without hesitation, she fired the third shot. Some people join the military to prove something. Ashley didn't. She just wanted to be there, to do something decent. That was the first thing anyone could easily believe about her, and also the reason no one thought she'd go far. Born on the edge of a poor neighborhood near the Marine Corps base in 29 Palms, California, Ashley grew up in a house without air conditioning, but always with cold water thanks to an old freezer her father tirelessly fixed. Her mother worked part-time at a library. Her father, a former Delta Force operator, never spoke of his exploits, but he could carve up a live chicken with a dagger faster than a sushi chef. After he died in an explosion during a training exercise, everything changed. Ashley grew quieter. She shifted from dreams of combat to medicine, even though everyone said she had the eyes of a sniper. When she joined the military, she chose to be a nurse. Not because she feared guns, but because she wanted to heal. But that's when she learned a simple truth. In a special forces team, the healer is often seen as the weak link. In the team, she was the little sister. People liked her the way you'd like a tame stray cat, but they never listened when she spoke. When she suggested upgrading the medical kits for desert conditions, the commander waved her off. Later, when she asked to train with the rifle unit to understand tactics, they laughed. "You're a nurse, not Rambo." At the training camp, someone once joked that if you gave Ashley a Barrett, she'd take it to sterilize it. A cute joke, just like her. But Ashley didn't laugh. She just bowed her head and kept taking notes. What few knew was that after every shift, she trained alone. In the break room, she disassembled medical kits like she was cleaning a rifle. She measured the distance from her bed to the window like she was gauging a firing range. In a world where no one thought she could, she quietly prepared for the day when no one else could. She never told anyone, but once, she adjusted a supply route on a simulated map, saving the team from a fire trap during a drill. It was just a simulation. No one mentioned it. No one knew it was her idea. Because Ashley never sought credit. She just observed, learned, and waited. Every soldier carries something personal they don't want anyone to touch. For Ashley, it was a small wooden box, its edges worn smooth by time, tucked carefully under the bunk in her temporary quarters at the training camp. No lock, no label, just a dark wooden box that looked like any discarded trinket. But inside was another world, a world Ashley once belonged to and still carried with her, silently. Inside the box were 3 items: a thick notebook filled with notes on ballistics and sighting in desert conditions, a sniper's glove with a torn index finger, and a faded black and white photograph, blurred by sunlight, of a man cleaning an M24 rifle under the shade of an oak tree. Her father, James Marin. In the Delta Force community, his name wasn't unknown. But to Ashley, he wasn't a legend. He was the man who taught her how to step lightly on sand without leaving tracks. The one who used tin cans as targets and made her aim with one eye half closed. The one who could tell fairy tales while disassembling a rifle as easily as shucking corn. The summer Ashley turned 12, he took her to a training range outside town, not to shoot, but to breathe. He taught her how to listen to her own heartbeat in the silence, how to reload her mind like loading a magazine. No one shoots better than someone who's not afraid of silence, he told her. He never pushed her toward a military path. But he also never hid the truth. You have the eyes of someone who knows when to end something bad. Don't let anyone teach you to bow to it. The day he died, everything shattered. A training accident, simple as that. An explosion, a brief phone call, a neatly folded flag left on the bed. Her mother, a woman of few words, said only one thing when she saw Ashley clutching the old glove. "Promise me, child, don't follow one death with another gun." Ashley nodded, and in her heart, she believed she'd kept that promise. She entered the medical field as if seeking a gentler escape. In those early days, she tried to believe that healing was enough, that if she patched up enough wounds, her own pain might scar over too. But sometimes that scar throbbed at the most unexpected moments, like the sound of distant gunfire or the smell of rusted iron in the air. When night fell over the base, others slept. Ashley stayed awake, flipping through the pages of her notebook, marking formulas for wind force, bullet trajectory, and elevation. Not because she planned to use them, but because she couldn't forget. Once, while cleaning the medical storage, she found an old, discarded scope. She brought it back, cleaned it, and placed it on her windowsill, as if just to look at the view. But no one knew that every morning, she adjusted its focus, like a reflex. Something in her was still watching not a target, but the version of herself from long ago. Once, when a young soldier casually asked about the old photo tucked in her notebook, the one of her father under the tree, Ashley only smiled. Just someone who taught me to look a little farther. No one knew how far those eyes could see. When the mission to escort the supply convoy through the red dirt near Salton Valley began, no one thought it would be the day every rule was tested. On the map, it was just a simple supply corridor. But the treacherous terrain, disrupted signals, and the blazing California desert sun turned what seemed safe into a trap. The recon UAV lost contact just 90 seconds before the first explosion rang out. No one could identify the source of the firepower. A blind curve, a silent canyon. And then, bullets fell like rain. The SEAL team was split apart, the primary snipers either wounded or out of position. The Barrett Precision 50 calorie, the only weapon capable of turning the tide from a distance, was left abandoned by a cliff, near where the UAV had gone down. At the field medical station not far away, Ashley sat amid screams and blood. One man wounded in the neck, another bleeding out from shrapnel. Her earpiece crackled with static, intermittent calls for support. Amid the chaotic noise, a familiar voice broke through. "We can't see the targets. God, they're moving along the ridge." Ashley glanced at the terrain monitor, then turned toward the open expanse to the west where there was a direct line of sight to the narrow pass. A perfect spot for a sniper, if someone was fast enough, precise enough, and bold enough. Then she remembered something her father once said, something she thought she'd forgotten. A person who runs from chaos is a victim. A person who steps into chaos to end it is a warrior. She stood up. No one called her name. No one stopped her. Everyone was too busy to notice a small nurse wiping sweat, retying her boots, and running out of the tent. Ashley didn't carry a rifle. She carried her medical bag, force of habit. But this time, she slipped the old scope and torn glove into a side pocket. It was the only thing that felt right in a situation where nothing made sense anymore. The terrain was rugged, the sand scorching her hands, and sharp rocks seemed to challenge every step, as if the valley itself were testing her. But Ashley didn't stop. She crawled across the mountainside, where the sun blurred everything like a misaligned scope. When she finally saw the Barrett lying amid dry dirt and spent casings, her heartbeat slowed. The rifle was covered in dust, ownerless, but not soulless. Ashley put on the glove. A small act, but to her, it was like tying back an invisible thread severed long ago. She knelt, placing the scope on a makeshift wooden stand someone had hastily set up. She adjusted it by instinct. Every movement was precise, as if no time had passed since she last did this. The view was clear. Distance, 823 meters. Wind drifting left by 3 degrees. Ashley adjusted the elevation, breathing slowly. She saw the targets. 3 armed figures preparing to launch grenades at the rear line. She held her breath. Gently. No strain, no tremble. The first bullet left the barrel. A sharp, clean sound. Nothing dramatic. But from that moment, the definition of the nurse would never be the same. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. She lay prone behind the Barrett 50 calorie, as if she had belonged to it long before life forced her away. Her eyes locked into the scope. Everything ahead, the screams, the gunfire, the cries of the wounded dissolved. Only her breath remained. For the first time in years, Ashley's hands didn't tremble. No hesitation, no asking for permission. A deafening crack erupted from the hilltop. An enemy wielding an RPG was blasted from his position. In her earpiece, someone shouted, "Who just fired?" Vance the spotter had seen it all through the drone. He bolted upright in his seat, unable to believe his eyes. The only person kneeling behind the Barrett, covered in dust and blood, was Ashley. "Who gave you permission to shoot?" Vance whispered over the radio, not expecting a reply. Ashley didn't answer. She only adjusted her sight and pulled the trigger again. The second shot. The second target. The wind wasn't an issue. The range wasn't an issue. Only the lives of her teammates mattered, and the eyes that once learned to measure a pulse with her fingers were now reading the movements of death. The SEAL team below began their counterattack. Thanks to her precise shots, they regained control of the battlefield. A Humvee broke free from a crossfire, thanks to her eliminating a machine gunner holding the choke point. In 8 minutes, Ashley fired 5 shots, 4 hit their targets, 1 destroyed an enemy sensor. The remarkable part, she was still wearing her medic's armband. A wounded teammate groaned below. In the pause between shots, Ashley leapt down, bandaged the injury, administered fluids, set up a blood shield, and returned to her rifle position. Like a gust of wind, her movements were without waste. The hand that held a needle and the hand that held the trigger neither ever stopped saving lives. A veteran sniper later recounted, "I used to think people like her didn't belong on the front line. That day, I saw how wrong I was." Greaves, watching from the command center, followed every move. He didn't order her to stop. He couldn't, because if he did, he'd have to be the one to climb up there and take her place. And he knew full well he couldn't. She observed not just with her eyes but with instinct. Each shot was a calculation of technique, medicine, and battlefield intuition. She didn't shoot to win. She shot to save lives. The battle ended as the sky turned toward dusk. The gunsmoke hadn't yet cleared, but the sweep teams confirmed no additional casualties in the convoy. An almost unthinkable achievement in that terrain. A commander exclaimed, "That's something I've never seen a nurse. Saving lives with both hands, one to heal, one to fight." Vance, after confirming the area was secure, climbed to the hilltop. He found her sitting there, shoulders relaxed, head resting lightly against the Barrett as if asleep, not from exhaustion, but because she was at peace. He sat beside her, glancing at the rifle, then at her. "I thought you weren't allowed to touch it." Ashley gave a faint smile, not looking at him. "So did I." A silence stretched between them, thicker than the gun smoke, but within it was acknowledgement, quiet yet undeniable. As they descended the hill, her teammates didn't look at her with surprise. They looked at her with gratitude. That night, when everything grew quiet, Ashley sat alone under the moonlight and wrote a few lines in her old medical notebook. She didn't write about the Barrett or the enemy. She only wrote, "Today I used everything I knew to keep others breathing, whether with a needle or a bullet." The news spread through the camp just hours after the convoy returned safely from Salton Valley. No one fell. Not a single vehicle was lost. But what set everyone abuzz wasn't the mission's success. It was the identity of the person who fired the Barrett 50 calorie, saving the entire team from being wiped out. Ashley Marin, a nurse. No one believed it. No one expected it. Commander Hayden Greaves, a grizzled SEAL veteran with a limp from Fallujah, sat silently in the tactical room, staring at the screen replaying the battle's audio. Vance's voice came through the headset. "The shooter is medical. 3 times. Unchanging. Unmistakable." He recalled the moment weeks earlier when he'd looked Ashley in the eye and said, his voice near a threat, "If you touch that Barrett, you're out of the team for good." Now, that same Barrett had saved the team, and she was the one who pulled the trigger. The post-mission debrief that day was packed. Everyone was there not for the report, but out of curiosity. Ashley sat in the back row, silent. She looked as she always did, her medical fatigue still streaked with red dirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal her sun-darkened wrists. Nothing out of the ordinary, but the eyes fixed on her were different. Rico, a renowned SEAL sniper in the unit, stood up to speak first. He scratched his head, glanced around, then locked eyes with Ashley. "I thought you were doing medical," he said, his voice half laughing, half serious. "Didn't know you were out there wrestling with death." The room burst into laughter, not mocking laughter, but the kind filled with relief and respect, the laughter of people who'd stood at death's edge and returned whole, thanks to someone else. Vance spoke next, no humor this time. He simply said, "If it wasn't for Ashley's first shot, I probably wouldn't be sitting here." Greaves stood. No one interrupted him. He looked at Ashley, then pulled from his pocket a challenge coin bearing the symbol of an oak tree. "This coin was meant for a formal ceremony," he said. "But some people don't need fanfare to be recognized." He walked over and placed the coin on the table in front of Ashley. No cameras, no drums or trumpets, just a metal coin making a faint clink as it touched the table. But that sound carried more weight than any metal. After the meeting, no one called Ashley the nurse anymore. They called her by her name. Simple, quiet, but irreversible. The following week, during a combined medical tactical training session, Ashley was assigned as an observer for the sniper team. A recruit asked, "Is she even qualified?" The instructor merely turned, pointed to the new sniper's glove hanging on the medical bay door, and said, "She's the only one here who's pulled the trigger to save the whole team." The next day, that same soldier came to the medical bay. Not for medicine, but for advice. Ashley listened. She didn't say much. She didn't lecture like an officer. She just told stories. About aiming, about breathing, and about what truly sets a soldier apart, not the force of pulling a trigger, but knowing when not to pull it. Every weekend afternoon, just as the sun slipped behind the shadowy ridges beyond the base, Ashley would push open the door to the medical bay. Not for fresh air, not for sunlight, but so that anyone passing could glimpse the sniper's glove hanging on a quiet hook, spotless, never used, next to a note in soft handwriting. For next time, hopefully, you won't need it. It wasn't merely a gift left in silence. It was a quiet salute from the team, a way to speak what none dared say aloud, that the one once doubted most had become the one they leaned on. And that glove, unassuming as it seemed, carried more weight than metals ever could. As time passed, wounds mended, but the memory of Salton Valley stayed behind, etched into late-night talks over steaming mugs and tired laughter. When new recruits arrived, Ashley's story was shared not as legend, but as a gentle truth. Never measure someone only by the title stitched on their chest. A month later, at a ceremony for military medical service, Ashley's name was put forward for contribution beyond rank. But she never showed. That night, she sat quietly with her old wooden box, lifting the lid once more. Inside still lay the photo of her father beneath the oak, and the torn finger glove from years past. This time, she added the oak tree challenge coin, Commander Greaves' parting gift, with care, without witness, not to keep hold of the past, but to let it rest. You don't need to carry your victories when you're sure of the road you walk. The following week, a group of young soldiers planned a drill sniper coordination with field medics. For the first time in the unit's history, they asked that the lead instructor not be a seasoned marksman, but Petty Officer Ashley Marin. No one questioned it, not because she was a hero, but because they knew she understood what must be stopped and what must be saved. One evening, as dusk painted the horizon and a sharp gust bent the grass, a rookie missed his shot. Wind caught him off guard. Ashley stepped forward, silent. She knelt beside him, adjusted his stance with the gentlest pressure, shifted the barrel, and gave a knowing smile, one that calmed nerves but didn't let focus slip. The rifle cracked, the target fell clean. The young soldier turned to speak. She just nodded, then whispered more to herself than to him. "It's never the wind. It's who's breathing next to you. Words from her father spoken long ago on a dusty range beneath an old oak tree. Now, those words lived on, passed down without effort. That night, in her quiet quarters, Ashley opened her weathered ballistics notebook. Her fingers, still marked by faint calluses, turned to the final page. The scent of gunpowder had long faded. She wrote one last line. "Today, Dad, I don't hear the bullets anymore. Just the steady breath of those beside me." Under the soft glow of her lamp, the page lay still. No eyes saw that moment. But in that breath, the symbols of war, the Barrett, the coin, the glove, became something softer, a memory closed by the sound of life. By dawn, someone noticed a second sniper's glove hanging next to the first on the medical bay door. No note, no signature. But the meaning was clear, across the base. Sometimes respect speaks loudest through quiet deeds. And as for you, my dear listeners, hold tight. The next chapter in this remarkable story is just around the corner. But before we turn the page, don't forget to like and subscribe if this journey has stirred something in you. Drop a comment below, tell me where you're watching from, and what time it is in your world. I always love seeing how far these stories travel.